Hey guys, tonight we're going on a dreamy wander through the misplaced wonderment and startlingly strange world of medieval beauty standards. Imagine you're nestled into your couch, soft blankets tangled around your legs like a protective cocoon, and a sleepy puppy nestled right against your feet. The lights are low, and there's a gentle hum in the background, like an old lullaby whispered by a fan. Tonight's topic? Well, let's just say you probably won't survive this. And by that, I mean it's going to make you raise a brow. Or at least it would, if we weren't traveling to a time where high foreheads were all the rage. Before you get too comfy, feel free to tap, like, or subscribe. But only if you're genuinely enjoying the calm around here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is over there. I love seeing how far this sleepy little journey reaches. Now go ahead and lower the lights. Maybe let a fan hum in the background, and let's drift gently into tonight's story together. You wake up in a time where pale skin is all the rage, a shade that practically screams, "I haven't seen the sun in years." It's the medieval era, folks, where the pursuit of beauty often resembled more of a survival game than a glamour routine. Picture those TikTok makeup challenges, only with much higher stakes and ingredients that might send a chill down your spine. Imagine walking into a medieval village, the kind that's likely dressed in shades of brown and gray, with cloaks brushing the earth like whispers of secrets from a time long ago. And here's the wild part. Having lily-white skin wasn't just an indicator of beauty. It was like flaunting an exclusive club membership. This was in part because it signified wealth and societal status. Only those who could afford to stay indoors succumbed to the allure of alabaster skin. As you peer into a rustic cottage, you're caught by the sight of a lady applying a concoction to her face. Like DIY skincare, but with a tad more lead and less safety regulations. It's hard not to chuckle softly at the thought of how different things are now. Today, you'd find palettes of bronzers and highlighters literally glowing off the shelves. But back then? No, thank you. A bronze glow meant you were laboring under the sun, and believe me, no one wanted that. The lengths to which people would go for this beauty ideal could almost make you say, "You won't believe this." Imagine resorting to ingredients like lead-based powders, the medieval equivalent of trying that skincare product off a late-night infomercial after a scrolling binge at 3 a.m., except a lot more perilous. Historians still argue whether the obsession with this ghostly complexion was influenced more by the elite's profound disconnect from the working class or by prevailing artistic depictions of religious and mythological figures. Either way, wandering through history, you find people accepting levels of absurdity in their beauty standards that could rival keeping 27 browser tabs open, just to convince themselves they're being productive. In the dim, candlelit spaces of the medieval world, where flickering shadows play tricks on perceptions, you find that beauty standards were not just capricious. They were unattainable fantasies, often steeped in danger. It's a gentle reminder to treasure the glowing, freckle-faced selfies of today, where a sun-kissed look is embraced, unless, of course, you've just binged another episode of How to Get an Aesthetic Glow. And here's a little quirky tidbit. They believed that washing your face in the morning dew from May Day would enhance your complexion. Talk about nature's spa treatment before the phrase natural beauty was trending. As you picture this cheerful ritual, it's not hard to draw a smile as you contrast it with today's meticulous 10-step skincare routines. Remember, skincare is hard, But imagining medieval beauty could make you chuckle through those eye masks at midnight. So, as you cozy deeper into your nest of blankets, with fairy lights casting a warm glow over your room, you realize that the quest for beauty, regardless of the era, has a peculiar way of unveiling the oddest of human endeavors, each whispering stories of vanity and artistry alike. You wander deeper into the village, where the buzz of daily life mingles with the sigh of the wind through cobblestone alleys. This time, we're headed straight into the world of hair, sure to raise some literally as we explore the medieval penchant for outrageous hairlines. Imagine, if you will, waking up every morning and embarking on the ritual of not just brushing your hair, but actively plucking it away. That's right. The higher the forehead, the closer to, well, questionable beauty trends of the day. Let me set the scene. You walk into a dimly lit room, a lady seated in front of a small hand mirror, an item only the wealthy could possess, by the way. Perhaps she's focusing on her reflection with the same intensity you have when trying to take that perfect selfie on 2% battery, desperately hoping it'll come out just right. Every careful pluck around the hairline, making her forehead appear grander, was like unlocking a new level of status. It's like subscribing to a bizarre version of fashion, where the bigger the forehead, the higher your credibility on the medieval beauty leaderboard. For those of us taking inspiration from TikTok tutorials on hairstyles nowadays, you might find this medieval obsession a bit hair-raising. It's hard not to smile thinking about how trends have flipped so wildly over time. Today, we boost our locks with volumizing sprays and dry shampoos, but back then, folks were seemingly in a constant shedding season by choice. Just imagine standing in the company of someone like that today. What a conversation starter that would be. "I pluck because I must," they'd say, amid quizzical looks. Historians still debate whether this eyebrow-raising trend was ever practical. Was it a genuine pursuit of beauty? Or were they simply navigating through fashion beliefs based on myths passed down like a broken telephone? A medieval version of when a meme takes on a life of its own, and no one knows why it's funny anymore. Some argue it was a reflection of highbrow art, pun fully intended, where religious icons with similar high foreheads influenced their perspective. Meanwhile, others just think maybe ancient marketing got the better of them, that behind every trend was a savvy merchant saying, "Pluck this way for prestige, trust me." Here's the quirky little side note for you. Medieval folks often believed that washing your hair with egg whites would keep it shiny, almost like putting a ready-made homemade hair mask on and calling it a viral hack even before YouTube tutorials were around. And honestly, who doesn't enjoy a good DIY beauty trick, even when it comes courtesy of random historical quirks? As you ponder on how we'll all look back years from now at today's beauty trends with a blend of nostalgia and bewilderment, you can't help but chuckle. Consider how relentless human desire for beauty has seemingly always had a love affair with the strange and unusual. Its footprints slipping quietly through time, like shadows whispering secrets, while you adjust your blanket once again, cozy in the knowledge that beauty is as much about perception as it is about presentation. You find yourself drifting down a narrow stone street, the cool air carrying whispers of the past, to explore the very heart of medieval life, the homes themselves. If these walls could speak, they'd tell tales of a people who navigated beauty with sometimes questionable, often enchanting methods. You step inside a modest dwelling, greeted by the soft glow of candlelight flickering against the walls, casting shadows that seem to dance with a life of their own. Picture the scent of dried herbs hanging from the rafters, a staple in medieval homes, masking the reality of an era not known for its scrubbed and polished surfaces. Cleanliness standards today would be appalled, as this was a time when bathing wasn't just rare. It was an activity that carried its own set of superstitions and fears. Imagine neglecting to clean your space, opting instead to watch cleaning videos, hoping the motivation seeps through the screen. Well, medieval folks were kind of doing the same, but with survival myths in place of digital guidance. Here's where things get interesting. Medieval beauty was intricately linked with perceptions of health and hygiene, which back then were as riddled with myth as they were with fact. There's something charmingly chaotic about it, kind of like trying out a new shampoo, because it has revolutionary ingredients and hoping it'll solve all your hair issues. Despite the lack of regular baths, the medieval folks had other ways. A quick face wash with herbal concoctions or perfumes to mask what water could not conquer. And sure, today we sprinkle essential oils in diffusers, but back then, the notion was more about appearances than aroma. Historians still argue whether the lack of frequent bathing was due more to a legitimate fear of water, which they thought weakened the body and opened pores to diseases, or simply due to practicality and the sheer effort involved in heating bathwater in the Middle Ages. The conversation remains somewhat contentious, just like deciding whose version of the infamous "when" meme is the definitive one when debates pop up on your socials. A quirky little tidbit to tickle your imagination. There's a record that suggests that Queen Isabella of Castile only took 2 baths in her lifetime. Talk about a limited edition. Can you imagine the hashtags if she had an account today? Bathless beauty challenge, perhaps? Still, despite, or maybe because of, their peculiar traditions surrounding hygiene, medieval people had a profound appreciation for beauty. Their homes, though humble, often bore marks of this appreciation. Intricate tapestries depicting nature or battles, vivid and colorful, cling to the dank stone walls. An earthy fragrance of an age gone by seeping into your senses as you let your fingers brush against them lightly. Like beautiful, intricate filters on drab backgrounds, expressions of beauty could thrive even in the absence of modern conveniences. So, as you sit cocooned in your warm blankets, maybe with a cup of tea cooling beside you, it's nice to reflect on how attitudes and practices toward something as simple as cleanliness reveal the continuous dance between survival and aesthetic. It's a reminder that humanity's pursuit of beauty and the odd paths we take has a way of painting time with fascinating brushstrokes, leaving behind not just images, but questions and wonderings to savor. As you continue your imagined stroll through the winding corridors of time, you find yourself pausing at the edge of a courtyard, the laughter of children and the hum of daily chatter weaving effortlessly through the crisp air. Here, at this crossroads of community and solitude, you encounter a curious ally in the medieval beauty battle, the mirror. Imagine for a moment being one of the few who could indulge in the rare luxury of a polished piece of glass, a sliver showing just a fragment of the person you hope to portray to the world. It's like finding that perfect angle for FaceTime or video calls, where catching the right light is everything. But here's where things get mind-bending. In the Middle Ages, mirrors were prized possessions, an ultimate status symbol that left many wondering if their reflection matched the ideals they aspired to. Without the endless selfies and front-facing cameras of today, mirrors were like precious secrets, reflecting not just what you looked like, but perhaps a hint of how you'd like the world to see you. You wander through another dimly lit room, the scent of beeswax from candles hanging in the air. In the corner, a small mirror is propped delicately on a wooden table, its crafted handle intricate with designs, like a medieval smartphone accessory in all but function. You might chuckle softly at this thought, envisioning how we check our reflections so frequently now, taking for granted the infinite access to our own image. I mean, we have mirrors in the palm of our hands every day, shopping for groceries and suddenly feeling like you have to check if your face is still in place. Amidst the ever-present undercurrents of mystery and fragile self-perception, historians still argue whether mirrors caused more introspection or anxiety. Were they cherished tools for self-discovery amid an ever-shifting ocean of what's deemed beautiful? Or did their scarcity foster a sense of longing, a desire to belong to a beauty standard as polished and elusive as the glass itself? It's a discussion as lively as trying to pick sides on whether the new monochrome look or vivid color palettes best express our emotions through emojis. Here's a quirky little side note guaranteed to make you smile. Stories circulated about some medieval folk believing mirrors could capture souls or anchor ghosts, giving them an almost magical quality. It's like having a New Age belief that your phone camera mysteriously steals part of your essence each time it flips to front-facing unexpectedly. So, as you settle further into your cozy cocoon, probably swiping a cookie from an adjacent plate, think on how something as simple as a reflection holds immeasurable power over our self-perception. It's a soft reminder to appreciate the fleeting moments when the light hits just right, and you glimpse yourself not in a whisper of glass, but through the gentle lens of time, a beauty that transcends mirrors and eras alike. Meandering through the rich texture of medieval life, you find yourself suddenly caught in the swirling fray of fashion. If there's one thing history tells us, it's that fashion has always been one part necessity, two parts whimsical absurdity. Imagine walking into a marketplace, bustling with the kind of controlled chaos that only a medieval crowd can muster, and spotting shoes that seem to have a life of their own, literally curling up at the toes like they're made for hobbit adventures rather than everyday wear. Welcome to the world of pointed shoes, or poulaines, as they were quaintly called. Picture shoes so elongated and fanciful that walking in them was as graceful as trying to navigate the world in roller skates for the first time. It's hard not to giggle when you envision yourself dodging puddles, the tips of your toes stretching toward the horizon like a medieval Snapchat filter gone hilariously wrong. They sported such exaggerated lengths that sometimes the toes were even tied to the wearer's leg to keep them from bending back on themselves. Imagine, if you will, trying to run for a medieval carriage while your shoe tips gleefully catch every bump in the road. These shoes were more than just footwear. They were statements of status, much like flaunting the latest designer sneakers or flexing the newest tech gadget today. Yet despite their ridiculousness, historians still puzzle over whether poulaines were primarily an expression of fashion or a silent protest against practicality. Were they just outrageous enough to emphasize the elite's separation from the working class? Or were they simply the equivalent of a medieval inside joke that we've yet to fully understand? It's kind of like the eternal debate over whether the pineapple on pizza is a culinary delight or a crime. In one delightful twist of quirky history, there are accounts of church officials trying to ban the shoes, viewing them as frivolously sinful. which is sort of like banning specific emojis because they're just too cheeky for public consumption. Honestly, who knew footwear could cause such a stir besides saving your toes from cold? As you ponder the idea that something as simple as shoe couture could craft narratives that ripple through the ages, you can't help but draw parallels to those distressed jeans in your closet. Something about wrapping our identities up in fabric and style remains a constant comfort, like wrapping up in your favorite worn-out plaid pajamas, familiar and lovely despite, or perhaps because of, their oddness. Settling into your blanket fortress, it's easy to appreciate the gentle absurdity of fashion in its perennial creative dance, swirling through time like falling leaves caught in a breeze. A whispering reminder that sometimes the stories we tell through what we wear are just as expressive, brave, and delightfully weird now as they were back when shoes curled like mischievous smiles, carrying history with every playful step. Venturing further into the colorful tapestry of medieval life, it's time we dive into a world painted with strange hues and even stranger ingredients, the mesmerizing and sometimes perilous realm of cosmetics. You find yourself in a bustling apothecary, a treasure trove of vials and potions so vivid it feels like the medieval answer to today's cluttered makeup drawers. Imagine shelves lined with powders and rouges, each promising beauty at a single swipe, but carrying the hidden risk of something a tad more sinister. In this era, a pale, almost ethereal appearance was the height of allure. To achieve this prized look, many would dust their skin with mixtures that read more like a recipe for disaster. Lead-based powders among them, because apparently, risking one's health was a small price to pay for beauty. Close your eyes and envision this. Daring to cloak your skin with this concoction, not unlike trying an unusually masked chemical peel you stumbled upon in a midnight online shopping spree, except with less screen time and considerably more risk. Looking around, you see a world where beauty doesn't come with ingredient lists, but instead is bound up in word-of-mouth advice passed from one powdered cheek to another, the whisper of secrets shared. And it's hard not to chuckle at the sheer contrast to today's eco-conscious makeup trends, where we obsess over labels and transparency like diet fad philosophies of purity. Here's where the quirky tidbit weaves in. Venetian ceruse, a favorite among many European elites, was a cosmetic that would have labeled its users as daring yet oblivious to the toxic cocktail they smeared on their skin. It became infamous for causing hair loss, skin damage, and, in some cases, death. Now, talk about a makeup routine that cost more than just money. Imagine waving off a beauty mishap by saying, well, at least it wasn't ceruse. Bad. And suddenly, today's mascara fail seems charmingly trivial. Historians still debate whether these dangerous cosmetic practices were fueled more by societal pressures or a deep-seated belief in the transformative power of appearance. Was it a willingness to suffer for beauty akin to today's love-hate relationship, with detox diets promising too good to be true results? Or was it a pursuit of art and status, a silent narrative of self-identity written across one's skin, as nuanced and complex as modern Instagram filters, which promise a level of perfection just tantalizingly out of reach? Sitting back amidst your cushiony fortress, with the gentle hum of your environment wrapping around you, reflect on how these dissonant dances with beauty are timeless and universal. Even in the gentle glow of fairy lights, as you ideate your nightly routine, there's comfort in knowing the quest for beauty is a shared journey. No matter the age, from the dangerous allure of ceruse to the endless options today, Our perceptions of beauty remain an ever-entwined melody of admiration and complexity. It's a lullaby of self-expression that softly echoes through time, inviting you to appreciate the beauty in every comma and quirk of history's enduring narrative. As you wander through your cozy imagination, warmed by thoughts of history's wonders, it's time to stroll into the artful shadows and curious light of the medieval world, where beauty was sometimes defined by an appearance of fragility. Picture waif-like frames flitting around marketplaces, their pale skin and slimness heralding both fashion and, perplexingly, an ideal bordering on the waning edge of health. We're diving into an era where looking delicately unwell was oddly coveted, leaving us with a tale as strikingly odd as sipping deflating diet soda in the hopes of achieving a health-crazed buzz without any of the gritty aftertaste. You see, being slender and pale not only marked you as wealthy enough to avoid the fields, but also as deeply embedded in the fashion of the time. It was the medieval version of today's runway chic, an elusive shape you would grace by nibbling on dainty morsels, avoiding anything that might lend a glow too healthy for the liking of the court. And here comes the wild part. Sometimes those pursuing this fashionably gaunt look would use techniques like tight lacing their dresses or even partaking in all-cabbage diets, mimicking a DIY juice cleanse of sorts, minus the thorough guidance and with considerably looser health policies. This, of course, begs the open question that historians still debate today. Were these practices genuine reflections of people conforming to the aspirational images found in art and literature? Or was this more about signaling one's societal status, a silent badge displaying, "Look, I am privileged enough to appear fashionably weak"? It's that same old rhythm rocking us even now, every time we debate if societal pressures push us into choices in gym workouts or fermented tea that promises much. Now, for a quirky side note, some medieval Europeans resorted to using leeches as a means to achieve that lusted-after pale complexion. Imagine a calendar filled with recurring spa days. Only the treatments arrived with tiny fangs rather than soft sheet masks or fluffy slippers. Talk about a fantastic way to achieve beauty results. Reflect on the peculiar beauty quests of today, where routines can rival a blockbuster movie series in complexity. It's not so different, if you think about it. A tête-à-tête with socio-cultural expectations this time, narrated by health influencers, or echoed in the endless scroll of fitness apps. Wrapping yourself back into your blankets, there's a certain comfort in realizing that this endless waltz with beauty, from leeches to modern-day contouring, carries grace through epochs. Each era, like delicate patterned threads in a familiar worn tapestry, weaves stories around beauty's ethereal essence. It's enough to make you chuckle warmly, knowing beauty often dances hand in hand with the unpredictably human heart of storytelling. As the evening deepens and the soft rustle of pages, or perhaps just the steady glow of your screen, transports you yet further into the world gone by, we turn our sleepy attention to the simple ritual that defined and still defines our perception of cleanliness and attractiveness: the bath, or more aptly, the lack thereof. We're diving, pardon the pun, into a time where the act of bathing was more mythical endeavor than regular habit, wrapped in a tapestry of beliefs as intriguing as the idea of sourdough starter in a TikTok challenge. That is, slightly daunting, slightly magical. Imagine walking into a medieval town, where the cobblestones echo not just with the steps of its people, but with whispered tales of long communal bathhouses and eventually private tubs in the homes of the well-to-do, used sparingly and guarded with the same intensity as we might reserve for keeping our favorite coffee blend stocked. If the modern world is obsessed with soap and suds, with entire aisles dedicated fervently to myriad hygiene products, the medieval era walked a line where soaking was less about me time and more how clean is clean enough. The fun fact, or perhaps mind-boggling tidbit, here is that bathing was thought to weaken the body and strip it of vital oils, making one more susceptible to illness. So people would periodically engage in what they believed were safer personal hygiene practices. Imagine scrolling through Cheer Cleans Talk and finding advice like, "We recommend 3 baths a lifetime for optimal health." Now that might see some midnight scroll pauses. And so, for many, simply washing the face and hands became the norm, their equivalent of posting just rolled out of bed selfies while still managing a photogenic expression. Historians still tussle with whether this aversion was predominantly due to the cultural shifts brought by religious dictates, or simply the result of practical logistics. Keeping big batches of decent bathwater warm being far from a casual affair. Perhaps, as with many things, it was likely both. Riding the lines much like flipping between dark and light mode according to your mood, or when peeking into that fridge again, hoping for something new to appear miraculously. For a quirky side note, some medieval Europeans purportedly believed that frequent bathing was a decadent luxury, perhaps better suited to the indulgent Romans, whom they admired, but also saw as morally ambiguous. Picture it, a medieval meme stating, "Do the Romans really bathe?" or "Just add water" on Instagram, while influencers in cloaks debate the merits of their own scrub-free aesthetic. As your feet find warmth against a beloved sleepy dog, perhaps you muse on these cultural echoes of cleanliness, or the lack thereof, wrapped in both practicality and growing fears. And perhaps you realize, with a half smile playing on your lips, that our yearning for self-care has always been, and continues to be, a complex dance. A dance that swirls through nights like tonight, where beauty rituals move with us, memories fluttering close like whispered stories of a shared humanity. You stretch out a little more comfortably in your imaginary medieval setting, each thought casting shadows in the flickering candlelight. There's a rhythm to the quiet here, where the echoes of past beliefs swirl around monarchs and their fascinating, often bewildering, perception of beauty. Imagine being in a grand hall, splendid with tapestries and the rustle of extravagant clothes, as we dig into how royal ideas about beauty trickled, or perhaps roared, down through the layers of society. In the royal courts, beauty was less an individual pursuit and more a regimented affair, steeped deeply in political influence. Think of it as the ultimate beauty pageant, where, instead of crowned winners walking away with bouquets, you had alliances formed, lands exchanged, and often entire policies swayed based simply on the presentation of noble beauty. This was the medieval equivalent of influencers at a launch party, but with stakes that went far beyond getting the perfect no-filter shot. In this world, beauty wasn't merely skin deep. It was a display of power, a reflection of the internal state of a kingdom, and that elevated one's status. Now here's the wild and slightly comical part. Some monarchs practiced aesthetic rules that would see everyone showcasing matching hairstyles or attire styles, creating what's akin to a royal TikTok trend challenge that never quite ended. Historians have long debated just how much weight these beauty standards had on wider social classes. Did the ideals bounce around the grand halls like echoes to be mimicked by the masses? Or did they quietly fade among those for whom beauty was less about power and more about personal delight or necessity? Much like modern trends that flit from high fashion to everyday wardrobes, royal standards weaved in and out, shifting the core of cultural day-to-day life. For a quirky footnote, consider this. Queen Elizabeth I, who personified the ultimate mixture of beauty and power, famously took to wearing thick white makeup made of lead and vinegar, both a symbol of her untouchability and a glimpse at the lengths rulers would go to maintain an image. It's funny to think of it in modern terms, a kind of regal filter applied daily, which accepted its own hazardous risks in the name of beauty. Health notes be damned. So, as you nestle into your fortress of blankets, looking contemplatively at the ceiling, or maybe your sleeping companion at your feet, ponder on the impressions beauty leaves over time and across history. These impressions softly remind us that power and beauty have long journeyed hand in hand through history's passageways, echoing backstories as delicate and nuanced as the soft lullabies that whisper you to sleep. As the night gently wraps its arms around you, we venture onward into a world where hair took on roles more complex than simply a crown upon one's head. Let's unravel the medieval fascination with hair and wigs, where the stories spun were just as lavish and sometimes as tangled as the tresses themselves. Picture yourself stepping into a bustling medieval street, the air thrumming with lively chatter and the clatter of hooves echoing along stone streets. Amidst this lively tapestry, hair was both a personal expression and a canvas for societal norms or unfurling fashion statements. Much like deciding between a sleek ponytail or effortlessly tousled waves, medieval hairstyles articulated identity, status, and even one's occupation. But here's where the quirky pages of history reveal their fanciful flair. Length and volume weren't always naturally gifted traits, so hairpieces and wigs became almost magical tools of transformation. Imagine a bustling market stall, adorned with wigs shimmering under sunlight, styled meticulously to mimic the most desired hairstyles, each tempting passerby with the promise of instant enhancement. It's a little like finding the perfect clip-in extensions, or donning that striking wig for a fun night out, the kind that surprises friends and strangers alike with your daring new do. Historians still puzzle over whether these hairpieces serve primarily as convenience for busy lives, adornments of high beauty, or as cultural symbols of vitality and prosperity. Were they the medieval equivalent of the beauty hack videos we scroll endlessly through, marveling at how a small change can elevate a look? Or did they simply nourish the need for reinvention, a glimpse into the age-old desire to play with one's appearance? For a deliciously quirky side note, these wigs were often made from hair gathered from less than pleasant sources, including horsehair or recently shorn wool. Picture the peculiar surprise of brushing your lovely new tresses and finding them distinctly fuzzier than anticipated. But in a time where lice and other hair nuisances joined unwanted dinner party guests, removable hair held practical allure, giving a whole new meaning to donning one's evening best. So, nestled comfortably into the folds of your favorite worn-out hoodie, a gentle calm spreading through tired limbs, you find yourself tracing the soft silhouettes of history. This tale of hair and identity threads through time with an artful, almost whimsical grace, weaving past and present into a narrative brimming with triumphs, foibles, and little whispers of vanity, a comforting echo of humanity's constant dance with the stories we choose to wear. As the night continues its delicate embrace, we find our path drawing us into one of the more intimate and sometimes surprising aspects of medieval life: dental practices and the curious ways they intermingle with ideas of beauty. Imagine stepping back, past the torches lighting a flickering path, into a world where toothy grins were a bit of a gamble, less a cause for spontaneous insta moments, and more like hoping your phone's 2% battery doesn't plunge it into darkness mid-scroll. You walk into a small, dimly lit medieval home, the air fragrant with herbs hung to dry, and you're confronted with the charming conundrum of medieval dental care, or again, the lack thereof. Though the idea of regularly brushing with our minty myriad of options was a distant dream, people in the Middle Ages prized healthy teeth much more than one might suspect. They knew well that a pleasant smile, visible even when humor had them guffawing around dinner's communal table, could be a mark of beauty and social standing, akin to a sprightly, perfectly filtered selfie in today's lexicon. It's wonderfully bizarre. Despite the absence of oral hygiene as we know it, some medieval practices are surprisingly reminiscent of trends we're familiar with today. For instance, charcoal or salt was often brushed onto teeth to clean and whiten them. Sound familiar? Flash forward a millennium, and you'd swear you've seen that in a trendy natural toothpaste commercial. The real debate among historians, though, is whether medieval Europeans were aware of the long-term effects of their somewhat unconventional dental routines, or whether they knowingly indulged in a somewhat blissful ignorance that modern dentists would likely cringe at. Did they, perhaps like us, in the face of a midnight snack, make choices with enthusiastic gusto rather than health concerns? Here's where a quirky historical tidbit might make you chuckle. Some medieval folk believed that kissing a donkey could cure a toothache. It's undeniably charming in its absurdity. The idea that a kiss from an amiable farm animal might somehow ease dental distress. Talk about putting faith in an unconventional remedy, or maybe just hoping for a laugh when life got tough. Reflecting on these whimsical dental tales, you might chuckle quietly to yourself, the tickle of laughter blending with the gentle hush of the world at night. This pursuit of smiles, of a brighter face lighting up the candle-splashed rooms of history, takes its place among the stories of beauty's gentle perseverance as you let yourself sink into the comfort of your cozy nook. The perhaps overlooked importance of a grin becomes another shared melody drifting through the corridors of time, threading beauty and humanity gently together like a timeless sonnet, navigating further through our sleepy exploration of medieval beauty. We saunter into a realm where the delectably dangerous meets the vividly artistic, the world of medieval cosmetics. Here, beauty was painted deftly in layers, both literal and metaphorical, on the faces of those determined to defy natural limits. Imagine yourself opening a small carved wooden box resting on a vanity, all curlicues and drawers, a treasure trove of beauty secrets that would make any modern makeup enthusiast wide-eyed with curiosity. Back then, makeup was less about a touch of rouge and more a strategic deployment to transform one's entire visage, bordering on the theatrical. The enduring quest to maintain that prized pale complexion, already flirting with nature's boundaries, had many leaning heavily into concoctions from their version of a chemist's corner. They used concoctions we'd likely look at now with rightful skepticism, similar to when you spot an oddly colored juice claiming miraculous health benefits at your local store. Arsenic and lead powders were all the rage, a statement that makes us sit up straighter, considering parallel concerns in today's debates about harmful cosmetics. We always think we've reached the pinnacle of innovation, only to find our beauty tools merely echoes of their hazardous ancestors. These ancient cosmetics whispered promises of ideal beauty, a softer complexion, a serenely distant persona, and people listened, enticed by allure despite the risks. Sort of like when you try a new brand of eyeliner, and it promises that dramatic cat eye with a 100% smudge-proof guarantee. Oh, the thrilling ride of discovery. Historians still toss about whether such cosmetics were knowingly accepted hazards, as dubious as browsing the strange corners of the internet past midnight, or seen as benign in their allure due to widespread belief in their purported benefits. Was it an acceptance born of lack of choice, or just a gleeful plunge into fashion as intoxicating as any mystical elixir? Some suggest that such cavalier attitudes were shrouded in the delicate veil of ignorance, bolstered by commerce that prized beauty above health back then, a tale familiar even today. For a delightfully quirky spin, medieval folks sometimes used crushed beetles as blush, not something you'd see readily available at a beauty counter now. Picture, if you will, sharing that tidbit on social media as today's equivalent of beauty halls go, complete with a hashtag like #Beetle Blush Challenge. It'd certainly create a buzz, both digital and literal. Cocooned in your comforting corner, with your mind meandering between smiles and disbelief, you realize the enduring power of cosmetics lies not just in the promises they whisper, but in the timeless creativity and expression they inspire, a thread that connects us through time, offering glimpses into the colorful spectrum of human aspiration, a narrative that warms the heart as much as it ignites the imagination. So close your eyes. Let that image of painted beauty drift gently through your thoughts, a soft tapestry woven with the soft lullaby of history's eternal fascination with transformation. As the night deepens, casting enchanting shadows around your snug little corner, we delve into the intricate dance between clothing and identity, a performance age-old yet ever-renewing, where seams and stitches transformed not just appearances, but entire personas. Welcome to the world where clothing was not merely worn, but wielded around medieval landscapes as tales unfolded against the rustic hymn of life's woven threads. Picture stepping into a bustling medieval basilica, garments swishing past you like whispers of a time long past. Clothes back then, so vivid in their attempt to convey status, wealth, and allure, were shaped by the era's intricate tapestry of societal expectations. The way a gown clung or billowed, the choice of fabric and color, changing with the seasons or social events, spun silent stories with the kind of potency you'd expect from your favorite influencer curating outfits with a flair for drama and storytelling. At its peak, clothing's role straddled two worlds: artistic expression and hierarchical display. Intricate garments often borrowed inspiration from nature, or borrowed literal bits from it. Fur-laden skirts, keeping one warm in courtly halls chilled by winter. Yet, intriguingly, sumptuary laws started to emerge, dictating who could wear what, as if carefully selecting emojis to ensure their tone and intention land just right in a text message. Ever heard of restrictions on, say, fabric? Your gown's hem and hue could determine your societal tier, a discourse as intricate and tangled as our internet debates over minimalist lifestyles versus all-out color chaos wardrobes. Historians still wrestle with questions surrounding the degree to which individuals viewed clothing as obligatory, merely a uniform amid strict social structures, or as spaces of rebellion and personal narrative. Were clothes the pages upon which the nobility scripted their lives, or did the commoner wield a needle with equal power, threading dusty alleys with secret styles? Quirkily, in some regions, clothing would be stitched with patterns too symbolic for even the wearer to understand fully, a kind of cryptic fashion statement. Just imagine explaining that your embroidered robe symbolizes the seasons of love past and future, like wearing a meme you've crafted that only a select few truly understand. It weaves jokes into fabric, whispers sidelong glances as the wearer walks by. Snuggled within your blanket fortress, each thread winding its way comfortingly around you, these thoughts settle like soft rain upon a sleepy landscape. This awareness of how clothing both shields us and bears our essence feels eternal, a dance through time as graceful now as ever. It reminds you that as much as we wear clothes, they wear us too. The movements we share, the dialogue we spark through fabric and texture, weaving stories as timeless as any you might find, etched beneath the stars. Gently cradling these thoughts, you let the night lull you further into its embrace, each threaded memory softening into sleep. As the quiet cradles you further into the soft tapestry of medieval wonders, we find ourselves spirited away to grandiose halls and bustling town squares, where feasting was an art, and every morsel mirrored the beauty seen in elaborate clothing and fair complexions. Imagine stepping into a great banquet room, where laughter and clinking chalices bounce off lofty ceilings, and every dish presented is as much a spectacle as a culinary delight. A grand tapestry woven of spices and flavors. Feasts in the medieval era were truly something to behold, where the glittering table spread before you seemed to whisper secrets of opulence, status, and the intriguing complexities of societal norms. Here, beauty wasn't just in the eye of the beholder. It danced across platters in vibrant colors, from the freshest fruits to rich meats, each chosen as proof positive of one's standing and sophistication. Picture the medieval version of flexing all those foodie snaps on social media, each dish a dedication to indulgence and flair. But there's also a fascinating pattern to these feasts that transcends their outward opulence. In a curious parallel to modern life, feasts served as a stage for camaraderie, negotiation, and even political striving. A communal chamber, not unlike a contemporary inbox crammed with digital invocations. You might even chuckle softly, seeing these feasts as a bit like subscribing unwittingly to monthly meal kits, only with significantly more ceremony and fewer delivery charges. Historians still spar over whether these lavish displays were truly reflections of beauty sought in opulence or a means to exert power through abundance. Did hosts aim to simply bedazzle with grand displays? Or did they attempt to wield hospitality like a finely crafted spear, as sharp as the medieval kitchen knives at hand? Perhaps, as with many societal rituals, both were intertwined, a delicious enigma as tangling as the oft-eager reach for the last piece of dessert on bustling holiday tables. Let's indulge in a quirky nugget of history. Some feasts featured foods shaped in the likeness of notable guests, jesters, or even nobles. A rather unique take on personalized dining, wouldn't you say? Imagine unveiling your own head, crafted from marzipan, a sweet slice of life quite literally. It's equal parts bizarre and charming, a party trick fit for history's fanciest influencers. Within the cozy warmth of your blanket cocoon, these stories swirl like a gentle echo of laughter shared across ages, inviting a smile as they envelop you. The table, dynamic and generous in both offering sustenance and shaping experiences, reminds you that beauty, fellowship, and food gracefully orbit through life, each feeding into the other. It's a whimsical dance that brings people closer, knitting connections with each gracious reach across the table. Part of an endless story that twirls with the memories softly whispering you to sleep. As the night deepens into its most serene hour, we find ourselves wandering into the reflective heart of medieval sentiment, the fleeting nature of beauty, a muse for poetry as well as philosophy. Imagine stepping into an artist's studio, where the air is thick with the musky aroma of paints and parchment. Here, beauty is captured in brushstrokes and verses, where each creation seeks to hold the ephemeral, the delicate whisper of life rendered in vivid hues and rhythmic words. In medieval times, beauty's transient quality was a song sung endlessly. Art, literature, and music all embraced this temporal dance, capturing it in intricate illumination manuscripts or sweeping tales of knights and dames. It's akin to how we might binge-watch series today, each episode a chapter in a carefully crafted tale, hoping to capture something before the credits roll. A chase of the impermanent, the timeless. Picture yourself peering over the shoulder of a medieval scribe, their quill tipping ink across a scroll, drawing you into a narrative where beauty is ever praised but never tamed. Historians often tug at the threads of these embroidered notions, debating whether the era clung to such transient beauty under anxious necessity, each creation a fragile anchor in an unpredictable world, or whether it was a celebration of life's most beautiful, fleeting moments, much as we hold onto ephemeral social media trends or viral videos before they're washed away by the relentless tide of the new. Here's a whimsical detail to imagine in this artistic revelry. Sometimes, artists would conceal tiny imperfections or humorous inserts in their works. A frog here, or an unassuming jester peeking from behind a tapestry's fold. Picture it like finding Easter eggs in video games today, or hidden tracks on an album. A delightful surprise waiting to unravel stories within stories, settled comfortably into your sleepy enclave, perhaps tracing a finger over soft woven blankets, like the caress of thoughts woven through time. You recognize this age-old embrace of fleeting beauty, a shared human experience. As creaky floorboards settle under time's weight, there's a gentle warmth in knowing that every era has danced with ephemeral splendor, a timeless echo proclaiming, "Behold, beauty is not meant to tether, but to inspire." Allow yourself to drift now, deeper into the night's tender embrace. Let these stories become like lullabies, gently pulling at the lids of your weary eyes as you nestle into the soothing tranquility surrounding you. Let the rhythm of timeless tales, pulsing through ages, guide you softly into the realms of dreams where history and imagination twine like long-lost companions sharing secrets beneath the silvery canopy of stars.